Story 1. Living alone for a long time. I'm always worried how long it will take for my body to be discovered if I die in my sleep. So it's probably not helpful to hear about the guy whose kids stopped talking to him because, once again, he didn't show up for Thanksgiving. So a cop friend was called out to his house when the electricity was turned on to prep the house for foreclosure auction. And when the heat automatically kicked on, in August, the smell was horrendous. Not from the body, it was long past the smelly point, but by the accumulated smells in the ducts from the prior winter when he passed, probably around Thanksgiving. Takeaway: be reliable. Call when you say you'll call. Show up when you promise to. That way, when you don't show up, people won't just shrug their shoulders and say, well, it's just Harold being Harold. Instead, they'll say, Adonis always shows up or at least calls when he can't make it. Something's wrong. We should check on him. Story 2. Chernobyl only didn't kill half the world because some guys volunteered to swim blind into boiling radioactive water and release a valve. It was a suicide mission. They lived. Edit. Allegedly not half the world, but still, the other reactors could have exploded, and that would have been so much worse. Also, part of the basement was drained. They waded for the most part, not swam. I was telling the urban legend accidentally, not the true story. They also had headlamps, but it still keeps me awake. The depiction in the miniseries wasn't really accurate. The steam explosion would have been a big problem, but nothing megaton scale as depicted. Would have hurt remediation efforts severely, but wouldn't have doomed Europe quite like it's made out to be. Those men are legends in any case, and it definitely needed to be done though. Story 3. While I'm on my bed feeling tired, bored, or staring at the ceiling, someone somewhere is crying, sad, or getting hurt. This shows to me how cruel this world is. Please take care, people, and be kind. But also, while you're feeling tired, bored, or staring at the ceiling, somewhere out there are things waiting to be discovered. Maybe life out there in the massive universe is doing stuff we can't even think of. Maybe buried deep down somewhere is some ancient treasure that could change everything for us, just sitting there waiting as you lie there in bed. There are poets out there writing poems that probably won't be seen by anybody but them. Books being written that might not leave whatever tiny village they were written in. Songs some randoms just murmur as they drive to work, lost on their breath. Lots of awesome stuff to think about out there that kind of balances out the pain. Maybe? Story 4. How is our consciousness kept throughout our life? Like, I'm me, and you're you, and we can't switch places. I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in anything, but why am I in this body, this life, and not a cow or an ant or any of the multitudes of life? Did I have a prior consciousness? Do I just exist once and in all odds blip out into nothingness forever? They would not be connected in any way, and there's no way to find out but me. This consciousness, is this a one-time kind of deal? Why do I have to be human? I wanted to be a bird. Edit. And then the concept of merging or extending consciousness via adding, splitting, connecting your brain to extensions technologically or biologically. If you shut off my brain entirely for a second, does my original consciousness stay, or would I be someone else? Edit 2. I need a drink, and to stare in horror at the void. Story 5. We live to consume. Go to work, make money, spend that money to live, and contribute to your economy. Repeat. If you're lucky, you retire around 60. If you're really lucky, 30. If you're real lucky, you're Elon Musk's kid or some shit. Story 6. How many things I'll never know? What will happen to humanity long after I'm dead? Do you ever think about time? If it's a property of the universe, what happens when the universe ends? If the universe ends in a big crunch, where the expansion of the universe reverses and all matter converges in the same spot, will another Big Bang happen? Will it happen exactly like the original one? If that is the case, is time a loop? Has this already happened before? How many times have I thought about this, and how many times have I written this comment? Has my death already happened an infinite amount of times? There is no way to know the answer, and that's something I never stop thinking about. Story 7. I have to get up and go to my soul-destroying job. I used to do this. Then I figured out my worth and told them I quit. Found something that I'd much rather do in a completely different state. Scared the crap out of me to leave everything behind and head into an unknown. But it was the best decision of my life. Take it for what it's worth. Guess I was thinking that I've literally got 30 more years to work before I retire, and I couldn't mentally do it anymore. Good luck to you. Story 8. We live in a world where the rich pit us against each other as they get richer, and it's so far gone that people would rather defend corporations that trickle out comfort, all the while reinforcing the system, than accept that the unnecessary uprising will be uncomfortable. Story 9. The universe is massive. While the words alone are nothing special, if you look at a picture of, say, the Andromeda Galaxy and try to decide how big you are comparatively, no human is anything more than a tiny, insignificant, and pathetic piece of matter. We are so small we wouldn't even be visible from 1,000 miles away, let alone multiple trillions. The universe is so large that there are quadrillions upon quadrillions of stars. A quadrillion is 1,000,000 billions. And they're all so spaced out from each other that a human walking in a straight line to one of them from Earth wouldn't reach it for the next 983,250,000 years, or about 3.2 million times the entire history of the human race. By the time you'd reach it, assuming humans aren't extinct and you're immortal, it's likely that humans would have already colonized the entire galaxy and have moved on to galaxies far beyond the Milky Way. That is what keeps me up at night. Story 10. I died once. Heart failed after surgery. Most people say they see a bright light or the gates of St. Peter. But alas, I saw nothing. I heard nothing. I felt nothing. I remember a pain in my chest, trying to gasp in air, then opened my eyes to 3 broken ribs and a syringe sticking out of my chest. I saw nothing. Doctors wouldn't say how long they tried to resuscitate me. My roommate told me I was gone for 5 minutes, maybe longer. So what keeps me up is that I still can't find an answer to life and know all too well that there's nothing waiting on the other side. Story 11. The end of the universe. Not the last star or the last neutron star that glows. All matter has decayed, as protons have half-lives. Black holes will decay, and moments of brief light and millennia of pure darkness come as black holes collide. After a very certain point, time becomes meaningless, as whatever remains will be so stationary you cannot observe it. The universe achieves true equilibrium, as the universe in one time point in the far future is indistinguishable from the next second, next month, next year, next millennia, next Googleplex, years later. Story 12. The dollar is worthless. The treasury is not just empty, it owes the rest of the world trillions, and the government somehow owes itself more trillions. Despite this, or more probably because of this, we continue to spend more than the rest of the world combined on the deadliest military in history. There will be a reckoning, and I don't think it will be gentle or pretty. Story 13. When you lose consciousness, that version of you is gone forever. When you wake up, a new consciousness will be created, but it won't be exactly the same, as it will not have all the same memories as the current you. You essentially die every time you go to sleep. Story 14. Sometimes when I'm in bed, I become super aware of my bottom retainer that is permanently cemented to my teeth, and the thought of it going through the rest of my life and being buried with it freaks me out. And dentists will not remove other dentist stuff. So I guess I need to find a shady dentist or borrow my boyfriend's Dremel. Story 15. The Great Depression is now almost certain to repeat itself, since economic relief was killed by greedy Republicans who were angry that they didn't get to give the lion's share of $1 trillion to their corporate pimps. Along with the expiring legislation goes COVID-specific unemployment benefits, individual and family relief checks, eviction moratoriums. That last one, though, people do not get what's about to happen here. We're going to have 15 to 20% homelessness by the end of the year if relief packages are not put in place. You think the George Floyd protests have been rough? Most of the BLM protesters have something to lose. Maybe not much for some of them, but probably something. These newly minted homeless will have nothing to lose by going absolutely ape in the streets. And I won't have a single thing to say against them when they do. Maybe it's about time for some of that good old guillotine action. Keep your non-perishables up to date and well stocked. Get a backlog of water. Things are about to get weird. Story 16. Humans kill roughly 60 billion land animals per year for unnecessary food, while at the same time deforesting rainforests, polluting the atmosphere, consuming large amounts of water, creating breeding grounds for infectious diseases, using antibiotics unsustainably, and contributing to heart disease and obesity. But no one seems to care because bacon tastes good. Story 17. I'm about to be 30 in 2 years. I'm still single and have not had as much of a sex life as my peers. I fear that I'll be this awkward, undesirable old dude that's bad at sex, that's just wandering the earth, only working, doing chores, and sleeping for the most part. A lot of my peers are living in houses with furniture, while I live in an apartment with little furniture. I'm working at a call center that I hate. I'm seeking another job, preferably in programming since I have a bachelor's, but due to lack of experience in that field, no one is hiring. Story 18. That in 20 years, the world is going to be so different that the thing I'm learning at school will be mostly useless, and that it probably is going to be a world. Today, it may seem that these are the best times to live in. But in time, as the technology progresses, there will be so many things to keep our minds distracted that 99% of the population will be so stupid that they can't wipe their own asses. And we can already see the consequences of it looking at how stupid some people are. Call me a boomer if you want, but it's the truth we can't avoid. Story 19. The fact that all this money the government is spending right now is eventually going to have to be paid back. Never in the history of the world, that I'm aware of, have governments around the world paid huge amounts for their population to do nothing without there being some kind of alternate way of bringing in income. During the Great Depression, people still strived to find ways of making an income, even if that meant moving or doing menial types of work. None of those options are available now, and are actually discouraged. Story 20. That in North America, there is zero food education. When you're eating, you are at your most vulnerable, putting substances into your body under the presumption that it's food. So many people are taught it's food, eat it, but never question it. Working as a chef in a farm-to-table restaurant, I've learned and seen with my own eyes the difference potted soil versus a hole in the ground can make. What absolute crap. There are 14 chemicals in your frozen meal that you can't even pronounce. What are they? What do they do? Have you ever even Googled them? I have. Some I've worked with and are, all accounts, fine. Others, not so much. Story 21. Humanity is just a blink in the existence of time. One day, we will no longer exist, and everything we do all day is such a waste of time. Why are we making these corporations? Why do we use money? What is the point of all of this innovating? We are all just weird, tailless monkeys who have more ability to think. But why are we pushing so hard for new and better things when we could very easily just slow down and relax? Story 22. Bears. Encountering bears is dangerous. Black bears usually don't attack anyone and would leave you alone if you look big to them. But there's little to nothing to do when you encounter grizzlies and polar bears. You can sometimes play dead in front of grizzly bears, but it's all over once they start licking your wounds, if you have any. You can drop an article of clothing to distract polar bears, but it only lasts for maybe a few seconds. Then you have hypothermia to worry about. Story 23. What happens after life? And if there is a heaven, what happens after that? When did the universe start? Where did everything come from that makes up the atoms? Am I the only one here and my brain just makes up scenarios without realizing that I'm alone in the universe? Is time on a loop? Like, after the universe collapses, does it restart in the same way, experiencing the same life over and over again? Story 24. The RMS Titanic's sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, hit a mine and sank. The captain decided to hold the lowering of the lifeboats and tried to beach the ship on nearby Kia Island. He eventually ordered the lifeboats to be lowered and stopped the ship's engines. However, before the order was given, a couple of lifeboats were launched while the ship was still moving without the captain's knowledge. Some of these lifeboats on the port side moved towards the propellers, and what resulted was a bit of a blender situation. ultimately killing 30 people. Story 25. During the sinking of the RMS Lusitania, a passenger named Oliver Bernard ran through the first-class entrance on the boat deck and claimed to see people stuck in the elevators between A and B deck due to the loss of power, meaning the people stuck would have to sit there, trapped in the elevator while they slowly drowned. Story 26. You can die any second of the day for no known reason other than your body has decided it's done with this business of living now. You have Brugada syndrome, and you've had a fever for too long? Heart attack. You didn't know you had a brain aneurysm and you hit your head? Pop. You bleed to death inside your skull. Just really tall and kind of skinny? You need a collapsed lung. The human body is weirdly fragile for no apparent reason sometimes. Story 27. There is plenty of world-ending, or at least human-ending, junk in space, and it's possible that something will hit us eventually. Most of what we know about is bright, shiny things that reflect light well, but there are a whole lot of others that are really dark. It's like the solar system has a bunch of ping-pong balls floating around. Some of them are bright and shiny white or rock-colored, but some look spray-painted black or very dark brown. We know where a lot of the shiny ones are, but the dark ones are almost invisible on the backdrop of dark space, and we only really see them when they move in front of something bright or light hits them at just the right angle. If they're moving quickly, we might have a few hours up to a week to prepare, and that's assuming someone spots it the moment it gets close enough to see with a telescope. Sometimes we don't see them, and we only see them after they've already missed Earth. The odds are really low that we'll actually get hit by any given rock because space is really, really big. But there are lots and lots of rocks out there with plenty of time to float around. So eventually, Earth will get hit. Story 28. That one morning, you can wake up, go about your day, be completely normal, then suddenly get a severe headache. No big deal, right? You've had migraines before, so you head to lie down. But instead, that's it. You drop dead from a brain aneurysm, or you survive and are rushed to the hospital where misdiagnosis and delays in diagnosis happen in up to a quarter of the patients, and every second counts. 50% of ruptured blood aneurysms are fatal. 66% of those that survive have neurological damage, and those that survive, 20% have it happen to them again. Some people don't even experience symptoms before having one. Brain aneurysms. Story 29. A method of epilepsy treatment is by cutting the neural wire that connects each of the halves of your brain. People who have gone through this treatment are shown to have two separate consciousness controlling one body. One half can talk, the other recognizes family and people you know, while the other is unable to do the same. They have specific functions that make them seem more or less likely to be the real you. Both sides have disagreements in choice. One wants one flavor while the other wants a different one, and expresses this by physically forcing the other half's hand to agreement. All the while, they are still able to effortlessly do normal tasks they did before, like walking and eating. Vision is also separated. Something only visible to the right eye is only received and taken note of by the left side of the brain, because right controls left and left controls right from brain to body. What makes this terrifying, thinking about these two entities and possibly separate people and opinions, is this one important question. Which one of these is you? Story 30. Years ago, I saw an episode of Monsters Inside Me where this guy was doing something outside and a fly flew into his eye. It only made contact for about a microsecond, but it was enough time for it to lay eggs. After they hatched, they started eating his eye from the inside, and he was starting to go blind until a doctor figured out what was wrong. Just imagine that, getting your eye eaten from the inside and losing your sight all because a fly very briefly made contact with you. Ever since I learned about this, I get really paranoid when there's a fly around my face, because of the fact that this could possibly happen to me. Story 31. Every tree that is chopped down has a 50% chance to be home to an animal. The more homeless animals there are increases the chance of an animal coming to your neighborhood aggressively to take your territory. At the rate things are going, it's likely that nature will come back at us for what we've done to it. Story 32. That the world seems more divided than ever, and nothing seems to be able to stop dividing us. It's like everyone but the people want wars and division because it's somehow profitable. And even though we, the people, don't want division and war, and we outnumber those in power both in front of and behind the scenes, we are being dragged along by invisible people using visible puppets into a frightening future.